Today's episode launches the day before Thanksgiving in the US, so of course I have to speak on gratitude, right? Except we already speak a lot about gratitude in this podcast. So today we'll look at it more specifically in a way that can help with uncomfortable family situations over the holidays and with the way you work with others to successfully grow your business. This is the Heart Body Business Podcast. Inspiration, tips, and tools for entrepreneurs seeking a more fulfilling type of success. One that stems from exploring and expressing their true passion and purpose and finding healthy ways to do so. All coupled with insights and action items to get a business moving in the right direction. I'm Steve, your host, and I invite you to learn more at heartbodybusiness.com. We've seen a lot of public opinions in the last few years about the evil of America, of police, and even of men and of the white race, as if somehow these are all inherently hateful, domineering, and regressive. Meanwhile, someone might have an opposing view that sees the good in each of these, that sees their contributions, yet that perhaps fails to see where each of these has fallen short. This might be blind patriotism, for instance, that honestly believes the good versus evil propaganda that governments use in times of war. Or someone who recognizes how our economic system has raised our standard of living without perhaps seeing where it has failed some demographics, contributed to poor public health, or degraded the quality of our environment. The problem with any extreme is that it sees the world as black or white rather than a blend of swirls, patterns, and shades. The reality is, every individual and every institution comprised of individuals deals with the three forces I talk about all the time. First, survival instincts, which seek to provide for basic needs for the individual and his or her clan, but can also involve greed, lust, and the desire for control, which all stem from survival purposes. Second, the mind, with its power of planning, but also its ability to coldly turn things to data and look for efficiency, sometimes at human costs. And third, the heart, with its desire to unite with others and uplift all lives. You have all three of these in you. So do I. So do your friends, family, and neighbors. So do your enemies. So does every country. So do both men and women. So does every race. We are human beings, and this is our basic build. Good flows through us, and we do good things. We contribute, we uplift. All of us do. But regression, or what some would call evil, also flows through us. So sometimes we stumble. Sometimes we make mistakes because we're not fully informed. Sometimes because we're afraid. Sometimes because we're absolutely in a place of love, but choosing between difficult options, none of which are perfect. Because of this, I could never have personally run a political campaign on the phrase, "Make America Great Again." Even though, yes, I see so much good that has come from America and its experiment in freedom. I want more of that. But I also see where it's a work in progress and where, in some ways, it's regressing. Plenty needs to be fixed. And to me, this is the true patriotic view, a love of one's country for the good it represents, while also acknowledging the work that needs to be done and contributing to its progress. So if it were me, I'd have simply run on the phrase, "Make America Great." And I'd have called up everything I believed in about America that should be supported or restored. But I'd also have been able to speak to the downtrodden, to acknowledge where we needed to improve, and to promise to explore those areas and find and implement what solutions we could. Because reality is always more complex than a headline. It's rarely just one side that is right about something. Both are usually right in certain ways, and both are also blind, which often comes from self-interest. It's very difficult to step outside ourselves and look at what is genuinely the most valuable approach for all involved, rather than simply what's best for us. And this is because of our survival instinct. And unfortunately, it seems like most of politics comes from this very old energy of survival rather than from the heart. I believe this needs to change, and I personally believe that change has to begin with the people before it can trickle up to our so-called leaders. I know that seems backwards, but I believe our leadership reflects what's happening in the population as a whole, which may be why the political system finds it valuable to limit education, limit financial opportunity, limit health, and generally keep the population in survival mode, fighting with one another, and thus retaining the power structure that exists in most of the world. Now, apart from the impact politics may have on our daily lives, what does this have to do with family over the holidays and people power in our businesses? Well, in a similar way to all this, when we have tension with family members or challenges with our employees or team members, it's rarely a black or white situation, and we usually have a role in what's going on. Until we can see our role, we're likely to struggle with sorting things out. If this involves not just one employee, but a series of employees, like a revolving door in the business where we can never find anyone smart enough or good enough, and we're frequently firing people or they're frequently leaving, maybe we need a serious look at our expectations and whether we're making these clear, and whether we're empowering someone to succeed, and whether we're creating the right atmosphere, and so on. What is our role, either with an individual or with a pattern? But especially on today's topic, where do we stand with gratitude? One of the most powerful things you can do to shift a situation with a family member or employee is to reflect on the good you can see in them as well as in their potential. Depending on our general mindset, we may have a tendency to see what is wrong in a situation rather than what is right. As I discussed on the topic of patriotism, if we're coming from a place of love, it is entirely appropriate to see what is not ideal in someone or something, if the goal is to provide support and the opportunity for improvement. When we're struggling with someone, when we think they're in the wrong or they're falling short, are we gossiping about it? Are we judging? Or are we seeing where we can extend a hand? Many people can and will step up when we create an environment for them to do so. This can result in better work in our business or a better relationship with them. But if they feel they're under attack, they set up their defenses and spend so much energy on that, they won't have much left to invest in making things better. By definition, we're never going to approach a person from a state of love if we're not seeing the good in them, because love does see the good in them. This is why working on gratitude, being grateful for someone's strengths and talents, helps us to align with the universal power of love. If we want to see the whole picture of someone, we need to see the good, the talent, and the potential. If we fail to do this, we'd better admit that we're deceiving ourselves about them, and maybe about many more things. And the more skewed your worldview from reality, the harder it is to plan things that come to pass, the harder it is to succeed. In other words, failing to see the good in countries and businesses and genders and races and people, failing to see the good in these is an act of self-deception that makes it difficult to find happiness or success because we're making decisions and taking actions from an entirely faulty place. So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, but important throughout the year, who is someone in your personal or professional life that you struggle with, and can you spend some time first recognizing all the good you can about them, and then feeling gratitude for that good, changing your inner perception about them, and even acting on this by extending a compliment, empowering them to act on their strengths, and helping them to become that good, and minimizing the impact of where you struggle with them. Gratitude changes us as well. When we focus on the negative in someone, we're focusing on the parts of them that cannot help us in our own goals. And so we distance ourselves from them, and by doing so, we hurt our own efforts. When we spend time in gratitude and find what is strong in someone, we find the part of them that can support us on our journey. And as they feel your love for what is good in them, they're much more likely and willing to become your ally. Again, there's no need to be naive. There's no need to ignore where someone struggles. The patriot is not blind to the follies of his country, just as we can love a person and yet see what could be improved, just as we should love ourselves while seeing where we need to improve. And yes, we will give some people opportunities to be their best with us, and they will choose another path. And in doing so, they distance themselves from us. We do not need to be the ones causing distance, but we can certainly allow distance from those who are not in integrity. But for our part, let's seek to be grateful for everything good in those around us, because in doing so, we allow deeper connections. In doing so, we allow them to be more successful versions of themselves. In doing so, we allow them to contribute more to our own dreams and to the world we want to live in. On this note, let me end by sharing my own gratitude for you. If you've taken the time to listen to this entire episode, you've given me the opportunity to offer just a little more of what I'm trying to share, of the positive change I'm trying to encourage. I'm especially grateful if you take this message to heart and find at least one person whose good you can draw out, supporting them, supporting yourself, and supporting the greater world. Till next time, thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe. You can also join our mailing list to get alerts on our latest episodes and other tips, tools, and news. Learn more and sign up at heartbodybusiness.com.